In the racing game of F-Zero, you're in a futuristic race car. Oh, I guess I should watch where I'm driving instead of talking. Let's see if we can't turn the car around right about now. If you're a real good player, meaning you've got the skill of a 9 or 10-year-old, you can even try to jump your car. But look out, if you miss, the game lets you know your status.
Once relegated to a small, misunderstood section of popular culture, video games have exploded in popularity in the last years. From the undeniable sales success of franchises like Call of Duty, to the famous musician Drake playing Fortnite with popular Twitch streamer Ninja to the tune of 230,000 viewers.
Oh my god! I'm a man of my word, I got you.
What was once a largely unassuming and ridiculed industry has transformed into a multi-billion-dollar behemoth that has even spawned its own kind of competitive sports, electronic sports, or esports for short. However, despite all its success, there's one franchise that is noticeably less popular than its video game cousins, such as first-person shooters. That franchise is fighting games. Beginning with the release of Street Fighter II in 1992, fighting games have evolved to draw in their own big crowds and their own big tournaments, though not as big as the aforementioned genres of video games. So, what are fighting games about, and who plays them? To answer those questions, I attended a gathering at the video game store Level Up Games in St. Paul and interviewed a couple of the local players about their personal histories in, and perspectives on, the Minnesota fighting game community.
Okay, first question, what is your name?
My name is Riley Stokes.
Kevin Williamson.
I'm Ben Hawkins.
My first question to each of them was simple.
How did you first get into fighting games?
How did I first get into fighting games? Well, I've always played competitive games, kind of from when I was young. I've been a very competitive person. I was looking at all the fighting games, always interested me, but they were hard to learn.
Yeah.
So, it was around this summer I decided, what the heck, I'll just get into it and play them. So that's kind of how I started.
So I first got into fighting games when, back in high school, my friends and I rented Street Fighter 4 from a video store.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
We played it for a little bit, we didn't like it very much. And then eventually Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out, and I had known about Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and I knew how crazy it was. So I played it with my friends. And kind of like everyone else in the scene, it got to a point where I wanted to play more and they didn't. So I found myself coming out to these local scene playing fighting games.
I got into fighting games, God, it must have been like 3 or 4-ish years ago, 4 or 5. And I was actually thinking about teaching English in Asia, and I played like a lot of FPS games, or used to, so I wanted to have something in common with like the natives there, because I really didn't want to play like League or any of like the whatever those games are.
So what game did you select to relate to them then?
Like Street Fighter 4 at the time was like the big one, so I started playing like right before Ultra Street Fighter 4 came out, so it's like AE 2012 for a while.
Bad parenting. My parents couldn't afford babysitters, so they would give us $5 and drop stuff at the arcade when I was really, really young. Probably
How old?
I was 7 or 8 at the time. And so if we wanted to make that $5 last, we had to get really good at video games. So getting into competitive video gaming was basically just bad parenting.
Fighting games are notorious for being difficult to both understand and master. So I asked each of them to explain how fighting games work for those that haven't played them before.
So could you briefly explain how fighting games work for people that might not understand how they work?
It's like really fast-paced rock, paper, scissors. You're making a decision and hoping that your opponent is making a detrimental decision at the same time.
So the way fighting games works is it's generally one person versus another, and you select a character on the video game, and you basically take those characters and pit them against each other fighting, and whoever depletes the other person's health bar first, through fighting obviously, wins the match.
It's kind of like digital boxing, I'd kind of say, in a way. It's 2 players. Each player picks a character or multiple characters depending on the game.
It's like a big game of rock, paper, scissors, but there's like way more options than just rock, paper, or scissors.
One interviewee, Isama Shur, had a particularly interesting story about how he became involved in the FGC.
You said you grew up in Utah and you started playing games at like 8. How did it progress from there until you got to Minnesota? You know, if you had to Sum up your life story very briefly, and if you're okay with telling it, of course.
So, Street Fighter 2 came out when I was about 9 years old, and I would play in the arcades all the time. And locally, I was very good. People knew me as this little kid who was like a prodigy.
So you were like the arcade master of legend, basically.
For my particular arcade.
Yeah.
And then I heard that there was a tournament going on for that game at another place, like a couple hours away. And I asked my mom, "Can we go to this?" And she said, "Sure." Went there and got my ass handed to me. So. Like, I realized that there were more communities than just my little arcade, my little microcosm, and that you could compete with other people. So that made me want to get better at the game, learn what I had done wrong, and come back later even stronger. So, when did I start? About 9 years old. How long I've been doing it? Ever since then.
Wow. That's really impressive. And if you don't mind me asking, why'd you move to Minnesota?
My father is a neurosurgeon, and he was working at the Mayo Clinic for a while. And that was right about the time that I was going to college. So the family moved here, and then I moved away to college. When I was done with college, I came back, and they were down in Rochester, and I didn't really like living down there. So when I was living on my own, I just decided I'd be up here in the Twin Cities.
Overall, I learned that the people that play fighting games the most are just as dedicated to them as anyone else is to their hobby. In fighting games, your losses are many, and your wins are hard-earned. So, you can take those losses and use them to learn to better yourself, or you can succumb to the salt.
This dude sucks with Urian. Period. Hands down garbage. This dude sucks. Lee Joe, if you're listening, you have the worst Urian I've ever played in my life. Every time I see a replay of you on YouTube, it looks awful. You look fidgety. You don't play like your top 8 material. That Urian's garbage. All you do is sit there and try to get throws all day. Throws. No buttons, no footsie. Soon as I figured out the fact you can't sit there and keep spamming +3/4 medium punch on me all day, what'd you do? You were lost. Wait a minute, I gotta figure out a million ways to throw this guy. Suck a you bald headed motherfucker. Your Urian sucks. Worried about what the going on for season 2. You're not making it to top 8 Evo next year. Blow it, broad. That sus connection. Mike muted.